Good morning. I would like to welcome you very cordially. As Agnieszka said, this is our 6th meeting. My name is Justyna Michałowska. I'm psychologist and a consultant of positive and transcultural psychotherapy. During the training on daily basics, I work in a psychological and pedagogical clinic where, among other things, like diagnosis and therapy, I take care of supporting teachers. So perhaps from another view, but aspects of teachers' work are no stranger to me. So I will do my best to show you that area from teacher's perspective. Beside that, I work in a private cabinet. These are aspects cabinet in Poznań and in my hometown near Poznań, in Śroma. Today I will invite you for a meeting around topic education or support, adaptation of children with traumatic experience in Polish school. I think that today's meeting won't give you many answers, rather will leave you unsatisfied. I also think it might be a great opportunity to look for your own reflection in the field. If you follow the last weeks, I'm sure you're aware how many things is also happening in Polish educational field. Lately we finished, or rather schools have finished, that part of work according to online education during the pandemic time, difficulties related to the strike, and indeed there is a considerable burden on shoulders of Polish teachers. So last years in Polish education I would rather called stormy, not calm. Recently, since the outbreak of the war in Ukraine, more and more children from Ukraine have been coming to Polish schools. And naturally, earlier in Polish schools there were children of other nationalities, but the experience with which children from Ukraine come to Polish schools now are completely different. And currently, starting education is quite challenging for them now. It is also a challenge for teachers, for educators, how to welcome those students in the very best way for them. And from different media, from portals, magazines, we can read how to welcome those kids, and it's barely ever that topic doesn't not appear during a day. But it also proves what is the need for the knowledge in terms of the topic. It comes to the experience of other countries with the refugee experience, then it looks very different. There are conflicts in the world, children of refugees are included into education. However, such basic work models are the integration model, separation, and the mixed one. The integration model assumes that students with the refugee experience, they go to school with the children of the host country and are admitted to classes according to their age or attend lower classes. They receive help and support in the field of the new language as a part of additional language classes. This model is valid in Poland, Ireland, Italy, and Sweden. In the countries of the European Union, we also dealing with the separation model. In the separation model, immigrant children learn in separate classes as long as they do not know the language of the host of the country sufficiently to attend lessons in the so-called normal classes. This model is available in Germany, Romania, and Netherlands. And there is also a third model, a mixed model, which is considered by many researchers to be the optimal one. It assumes that foreign children learn the language of the host of the country in the separate classes, while lessons which are subject without required knowledge of the language, for example, gymnastics, technical classes, or artistic classes, are held jointly for all of the students of the host country. If we would consider earlier experience of Polish schools and institutions from before war, there is a lot of schools with a great experience, educational experience for foreigner students. I have found a very nice description of the program in Podkowa Leśna, but usually there is much more schools around the refugee centers because of kids and students attending to the school from the refugee center. And I'll try to show you. I hope we will find time for that at the end of my presentation to show you very interesting links, because there is a lot of NGOs in Poland which are supporting educational assumptions for refugees, and they are supporting to include kids into Polish schools, and you can find a lot of interesting materials in a page named Polish Immigration Forum, and you can find a lot of interesting information there, including their past events, which is a great source of information. And the current situation is definitely unlike to what it was before, because with war, or rather with the countries immediately affected by war, we didn't have a contact yet. So there is a lot of news, but also a lot of developed methods which are really worth to reach for. When it comes to the tasks facing schools, there are quite a few of them, and I would like to introduce the topic from the teacher's perspective, because I hope that there will be a lot of teachers watching that video and they will have that opportunity to look that through. During the previous lectures, my colleagues were talking a lot about trauma and supporting kids during trauma. But today I'd like to talk about that from the school perspective, from the perspective what can we actually do about that. Unfortunately, until now, we do not have systemic solutions for it. Well, many things and activities are based on grassroots initiatives, and it usually depends on the resources of the directors of the school and the social environment that is the closest one. So it also looks very different in each school. The school is, by definition, a place to meet educational and emotional needs. And this is a question and a great challenge, how to do it, to satisfy all those needs, both from emotional and educational side. So this is a question how to satisfy the school goals, the goals of the teachers to be able to realize their common goals. And here is naturally impossible to do everything, and I'm sure the most important will be to decide what is really significant. It's impossible to resign from emotional support, but in the same moment, it's impossible to resign from supporting kids to receive the education. And perhaps it is a matter of formulating the proper question. Should it be educational support or emotional one, or perhaps both education and emotional support? And I'll try to give an answer to that. When we think about schools as a place in education systems, we think of teachers, core curriculum, curricula, examination system, textbooks, housing conditions, educational and development needs of students, school structure, teachers. And somewhere there is a way of thinking how it should all work to satisfy, to fulfill students' emotional and educational needs. And I guess it's important to think how to harness this entire school structure to support students with traumatic experience. School is not only the program, the qualifications, exams, gradings, individualization, adjusting, and raising. School is mostly teachers. The teacher is the one who is obliged to realize the curriculum because he is responsible in front of the headmasters, parents, and students. And now, when to the class is added so-called different student, the question is how to deal with all those tasks, how to adjust program methods and teaching skills to all of I need to fulfill, but also to fulfill all of the needs of students and the one additional student. And that is a challenge because we didn't manage to solve all of the pandemic problems which we're dealing with until now. All the time we do remember in back of our heads about the weak condition of the Polish psychiatry, and we do remember about insufficient psychology help for kids. And again, there is a question how to support all those activities to realize all the emotional and educational needs of everyone. And to describe school comes the student with a traumatic experience. And I'm not planning to talk a lot about his or her experience, what he's got in the backpack, because about traumatic experience it was said a lot before. But I would like to just emphasize that if we do think about the student with traumatic experience, when we think about the student coming to Polish school from Ukraine, who comes to our school, to your schools, with many different resources of his. And there's a lot of heaviness and burdens in his symbolic backpack, among which there is everything what he saw, what he experienced. These are really experiences which we as adults have problems to imagine how it is to stay for a few weeks in a basement or in a bomb shelter, to be apart from your parents, from your grandparents, not to know where are you going to live, what are you going to do, will you have your own place, will you have your own toys and place to be. And all those questions are the one who fits into that backpack. And emotions like longing, missing, very often anger, are the one fitting in those backpacks. To the rest of fears from that backpack is surely the language barrier. How will I communicate? How will I study if I don't know the language? A lot of different things are carried in those backpacks of students whom already experience a lot in their lives. And now to reconcile the prospects of the students, of the teacher, of all other students which also struggle with a lot of burdens and emotional suffers. It's really a challenge, and I'm using the word challenge because I don't want to use the word like problem. This is not a problem, this is a challenge, this is a task to solve. From longer perspective, surely post-traumatic stress disorders are most and more likely to have and occur, as same as acute stress reaction, which is naturally the natural and a healthy reaction in the situation of those students and their families. On the beginning, when the student is coming to the Polish school, he or she is usually well taken care of. It means he has a place to sleep, he's got given books and toys, and this is the time also when he is fed and when he's got the place to sleep and rest. So his basic needs are fulfilled, and this is the time of building the additional emotional needs. And this is the time when we're considering the question, why am I attending or going to school? And this is the question which we are trying to answer our kids. Well, when you will go to the school, you will study, you will learn, you will get to know things, you will be able to take care of your future. Many different things we're telling to our kids. But kids with traumatic experience, but kids coming from Ukraine, they also hear different things. Why? Why they're supposed to go to the school and why the school is also important. And here I would like to emphasize very important aspect, because very often we are telling that school, this is an important place, that it is a place of reaching knowledge and achieving development. But the students, Ukrainian students, whom barely manage to be or to fulfill their basic needs, to have a flat, to have a place to sleep, to eat, to rest. And I would like us to remember that their need, the next need, is the need of safety and the need to stabilize. And in that term, it's very important to understand that safety and the need of being stable is the basics of education. And the answer for the question to support or to educate should start like, let's start from support, because it's impossible to give an education without giving proper support and safety zone for kids. And thinking of regular students coming into Polish schools, they very often have got problems with achieving those goals of education, because their basic needs is also the need of being understood, the need of having relation. But the Ukrainian student, the student with the backpack I was talking earlier, comes to the school and what? And support is something he really needs now. And how to do that? In the same moment, to fulfill the curriculum, it is the theme which comes to the teachers most often at the time. I've been talking to many teachers and I've been asking about their experience in the field, and it's very, very different for each one. And there are many different initiatives, bottom-up initiatives among schools and teachers. But when there is a student coming to a class, to a math class, for example, without basic knowledge of language and without support, it is impossible to give him the chance to fulfill his need of developing in education field without giving him or her safety and stabilization. So the question, education or support, there is no clear answer, or rather, there is a clear answer, because without support, it's impossible to build education. But the precise way how to do that, this is an open question. A student who comes into the school, he is also a participant of other groups where exact needs they need to be satisfied. And from fulfilling his needs on a different levels, it depends how the student will manage into our school. And what is even more important, will he or she be able to manage with a stress reaction, or without proper support, won't we will be the one putting something additional to his or her backpack? So, education or support, or maybe education and support. And probably if we would have workshops in here, there would be a huge discussion about that topic. How to do that, and why there is only way of personal solving themes and no systemic solutions. But perhaps the lack of systemic solution is also a way for looking our inner resources, how to support students, to give them a chance to find their emotional needs, to support them on a proper level. In the integration model I was talking previously, the challenge in front of the student is to build up relations with teacher and with other students, plus to realize the education on a proper level. From the local experience, I know that there are organized preparatory departments for students to prepare them for further knowledge to study language. But from my perspective and from the literature perspective, the most effective model is that mixed model, because that model is not over traumatizing for the student, because partly classes are for studying language and partly for developing relations. But the effectiveness of that model depends on resources of teachers, local societies, and support given to schools. When we're talking about supporting kids with traumatic experience and building sense of security, I'd like to refer to the work of Gordon Neufeld. And lately I had a privilege to take a part in his lecture organized by Foundation No One's Kids. And the message of his lecture was very simple, as I understood and I think about that. It should consider very simple life aspects. And emotional playground, this is the formulation I've heard during the lecture, and I liked it a lot. I guess this is also the answer what to do at school with kids, how to support kids, because teachers, they are building relations with their students not from today, but they were doing that many times before. But perhaps their concerns about building relations in the future involves kids with great backpacks, and what do they have in? Because until now, a challenge for the teacher, it was how to fulfill the relation with the student who had a special needs, how to build that relation also with other kids. And now the task is different because the topic how to support traumatized kids is untamed topic, and everything what is new is usually untamed. And for now, if we will think about supporting traumatized people, that we do not have much experience in that, but what we do have is a possibility and the knowledge how to build relations with others. And this is the basic tool. This is the tool which we can use immediately. And it doesn't matter, are you a math teacher, Polish teacher, or the gym teacher. There is a place at school for relation and for play. And I will say a little bit more about that in a minute. And wherever we will listen about the quality of education, the most important is the relation and contact. And the simple words of Yalom. This lesson is simple. The most important is contact. And the contact and relation, it is a tool which you can use immediately because it's immediately accessible and it doesn't require additional training. Well, yes, the knowledge about trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder and the stress reaction is very important. The more we know, the more we are able to understand our students with what they are struggling that much. But especially now, when that it is such a hot period, it's more than worth to realize, to be aware that each of us is able to use those basic tools, because sometimes we do not have time to prepare very carefully, but we do have those accessible tools like contact and relation. To listen to the student, to introduce yourself to the student, to explain what is his task and what is going on in here, to give him or her the feeling of safety, because each student is building his or her needs of belonging, of contact relation with their families and the people they are close to. And if they've got an opportunity to access school, they are able to build the bigger bonds. The more relationships, the greater mental resilience, because resilience is the one building through the community. the great theme those kids are dealing with is that trauma results from the separation. That bond they had are broken, and each man had that need of being a part of community. And when that attachment is broken, it is the reason of such a strong crisis. So, what is really necessary for kids? Tasks for school. What we can do for here and now as a management team at schools. There were few hints and clues before where my colleagues were speaking about. I will just mention few important aspects, and surely I won't close the topic. And I'm sure you will have questions, okay, but how can I do that? But what I will say, I would like you rather to use as a sort of reflection. And for kids who are coming into our classes, it's important to respect their right to remain silent, sometimes for several months, or not to talk about their recent experiences. This is the first thing. Second is to give them opportunity to talk sensitively and not to begin to talk in the presence of other children about their family history and the recent situation. And this is an important element of building relation, to talk in privately with the student, to give him or her an opportunity to letting know me and you. What do you want to tell me? What do you want me to know about you? It is also very important, and probably here you would need a contact with a parents or a family to get the knowledge about religious culture and even dietary requirements which were important to the kid or to the family before. And I wasn't sure should I talk about that or not, but the knowledge about proper spelling of names and surnames of kids and taking care of proper pronunciation and writing them through the whole personal. It's really important. I myself sometimes have problems where and when kids from foreign countries are coming into my class. But it's really important to give them a chance to be recognized. It's also important to give to the kid the perspective of safetyness, but in the same moment to keep their dignity, that they are calling me by my name. And in the same moment, it's also important to give to the kid the information about ensuring names and surnames of the teachers, assistants, and people whom they can turn for help. As same as teaching kids the terminology of so-called survival in school and classrooms, like toilets, books, desks, time to play, and other important words and things. Very often, is important to providing a basic vocabulary relating to individual subjects in Polish and in their mother tongue. And naturally, getting the school layout, rules, expectations, and a certain routine. So it's really important to know to whom the kid should refer to if he or she will have a problem. Normally introduce yourself. My name is, for example, Justyna. I'm a psychologist. I work in here, in that door. If you need me, you can come to me, you can talk to me. It's really important to know how to look for personal help at school. It's important to know how to organize your life at school, your daily life, to know where I should go, to whom I can address my needs, and what are official and both unofficial ways of and rules of spending time and day at school. And I guess what is important, and many of you, you already do it, like to get the contact during the break, just to check how are you, is everything okay? And here I'd like to mention also a very important role of parents. It's extremely important to engage parents as much as possible, because school is also a kind of community not only for kids but also for parents. And rebuilding the small community will help also parents to build their own grown-up community, which they really need. It is an opportunity to rebuild their village. And as you know, the village is necessary to raise the kid. What is also very important is to emphasize the meaning of their own mother tongue. And it would be also great if we could learn also few words, and if we teachers could also communicate with the kid in their mother tongue. Just on a basic level. It has a certain meaning to build relation, respect, and self-security. I'd like to refer to relations. I'd like to show you and emphasize that each time we're talking about a student with a traumatic experience, we do not refer to anything new except the knowledge which is really important and necessary for us to, or for proper understanding. Truly speaking, we do not use any other specific and new tools, because how to build relation in a class we already know, but perhaps now, and I would like to encourage you to think about that, perhaps now I should consider how to do it in a different way. Because until now I didn't have to use my resources to build a relation with the kids who don't speak Polish, for example. But truly speaking, all the mechanisms are the same. And here I'd like to add some tips for relations in a class. and school, to use and to encourage students and other kids to use their personal and interpersonal skills to organize for them the possibility to getting to know each other, to have a bond with the families talking in the same language, but also to try to establish some sort of friendly supportive system, like a buddy system, where kids having experienced Polish schools before can support the kids coming into Polish schools right now. And very often it happens that Ukrainian kids whom had that experience before are very good guides for the new coming group. Also, to create a film or a booklet or at least few drafts of school and what is important at school, it also gives the feeling of building relations. It's also important to show the school to the family. And for the end, I know we're running out of time, but the very important question, what with educational requirements? Because very often I do hear that yes, we do understand the need of support, but what with exams? Because we do have an exam in April. And the quote I have found about the dealing with the level of the program was how teachers are dealing with the quality of the program. They deal with it as they can. So if you can make the program easier, accessible, do it. Make it short goals as clear as possible. Give the drama, give the figures, give the picture tasks, including photography, diagrams, maps, and encourage people and students to give them an opportunity to have successes from other subjects not based on the language. For example, math, science, sports, gymnastics. This is also achievement area important to strength. It is also possible to use dictionaries, telephones, and the modern technology to the way you work, but also use whatever you know already. Use cards, games, everything what will help you to build up relations and interactions in between students. I would like to mention one important thing, that it is also very important to arrange mixed groups. So do not create the opportunity to fight, for example, on gymnastic classes, Polish kids against Ukrainian kids. And please remember, you are not alone, because things that you are experiencing as a teacher now is the global experience of all teachers in Poland, and it's really important to use common knowledge. Use the knowledge from NGOs, but also what we've talked before about professional burnout. Take care of yourself and about your professional health. You don't need to have super powers to be someone's hero. And at the end, I would like to quote: be the change that you want to see in the world. Whatever you will do, it will be worthless, but it is so important for you to do it. It is a quote by Gandhi. I wish you a lot of peace, calm, and indulgence. And I still open the question how to do that, to engage understanding into education. And I wish you all the best to take care of your resources. And thank you very much for the meeting today.